We're doing it live. I just gotta change the thumbnail real quick. Episode 90, dude. You're episode 90. That's so nuts.
What was it, my third time? Fourth time? Third time?
Yeah, third time? I think. All right, I think. Okay, we're good on YouTube. Good on Twitch. I think. Are we good on Twitch? Yep. We're good to go. Guys, welcome. This is episode 90 of the 1v1 podcast with our boy Roarrior. And we have, I think, some pretty, me and Roar were talking yesterday. I think we're talking about some pretty good discussions. And I guess in our pre-show, I don't know if you want to get into that or if you want to talk about other stuff before. I think we should talk about other, because I think that's like the meat of it all. Like, I think the conversation that we had yesterday was very meaty. So
yeah,
I think we should go into just talking about whatever. Nothing like, there was nothing crazy that happened today, so
yeah, no big news or nothing to be excited about.
not at all.
No,
Pretty
especially on my part. There's no I told you so's. There's no I knew this was coming.
yeah, there's none of that.
Yeah,
None of that's happened today.
I called that shit a week ago. Everybody tries to be so secretive about it. Like, oh, I don't know. I'm just asking for questions to ask Steven, just because one day maybe. But
maybe one day we'll see.
So
no,
congratulations. I'm
yeah.
excited for your guys' questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna try my best. I'm gonna be talking, of course, to you, to my guild, to some other people that I trust, and really curate at least my questions in a way that because last year's AMA when Richie was on, right? We helped Richie. You and I, like we literally helped him.
That was another. Hey guys, if you could ever ask Steven some questions, what would they be?
I know, right? It was super not obvious. It was like,
why would we? Why? Well, whatever.
But I mean, hey, we helped Richie. Richie had some really banger questions, and I remember even watching chat whenever Richie would ask one of his questions and be like, "Dude, that's a good question." Like I would see it like live on the chat, and that's always such a good feeling.
Absolutely.
Smurg was asking lore questions, which, and again, like I don't know what questions Lore Forge is going to do. I just say like, hey, look, you do what you do, Lore. Like I love you guys, but I'm just letting you know.
Lore Forge has had some pretty big gameplay related takes. I feel like they've had some
absolutely
things, but I feel like if it's lore related, it should be them. I feel like those guys are putting in the research, they're putting in the time to figure this out. And if anybody should ask lore related questions and get to the bottom of, why this, that, or the other, I think it's them.
Yeah. And I think it's because we all know Smurg just isn't really a part of the Ashes community. Like, and I think, maybe it was because it was him. That's why it's like, oh God,
I think he's turned into a bot himself at this point. I can't even tell. I mean,
he hasn't made any content. Like the last time I checked his YouTube channel, he hadn't made a podcast in like 5 months. So I don't know if he's just, hanging out with his like 20,000 people in his chat, and.
Well, is that what it's up to now, man?
I mean, yeah. I mean, why would it make content? Just hang out with your chat, dude. Hang out with all of
if I never got caught, I would just increase it by like 1,000 a week till it just got. If you don't get caught, then
I would increase it 1,000 a week until like Game Informer or whatever like news outlet basically says, some Twitch streamer is streaming to 375,000 people like daily. Or something crazy, But
that's the thing. Like, if you want to see, if you really like, it's so easy to tell because the people that have the same amount of viewership as he has, like, take Pirate Software for example.
Right.
Man just broke the world record for the hype train. His community gifted 30,000 subs in one stream.
And
God. His chat numbers are the same as Smirk. I don't even know his name.
Smirk.
So it's like that's the difference. This is true. That's what true viewership looks like.
Right.
This is the other.
This is
the other end of that spectrum.
Bot farm. Viewership. No, I got you.
No shame, no shame. He shows no shame, so good for him. If he's happy
Yeah, I
living that
mean,
life, then
it's like I say, right? The whole artificial, injection of a channel, right? Like if you think bigger numbers equals more importance, like you're just wrong. Like it's not. Like you have to provide value. Like, and I think being genuine to who you are and who cares, like I'm literally right now, I just checked my YouTube channel. I'm 2 subscribers away from 1,000. 2.
I can get you that right now, dude.
No, I know. It's crazy, but again, like
$3, I'll have you there.
what I've always wanted is a genuine audience, like someone who's legit, like here for my content and here for me. Like, why would I want to pay to have bots or some person in like India subscribe to my channel that is never gonna has never any intention on watching it? Like, why?
Right.
Like, it makes no sense to me,
Well, see, that's kind of like, I feel like that's kind of where I got, like, I was doing well. Like I had a little bump there where I made 3 or 4 videos and they did really, really, really
Yeah, they were
good.
popping off.
And I was growing, and then of course, in typical Roar fashion, I disappeared and I took a break. But I made a couple of Diablo 4 videos during the beta.
Oh, right, yeah.
And those Diablo 4 videos, they pushed me over the 1,000. They were very, very popular, and I was getting a lot of feedback on those Diablo videos, and I was feeling really good. I'm like, I might be able to do this in the meantime while waiting for Ashes. I can make some Diablo content because I'm already on a roll. And then Diablo dropped and took the wind right out of my sails. So
I mean,
it was the end of that.
I mean, it
But
is.
now, like, I feel like every time I post a video now, I lose like a handful of subs almost immediately, and I'm like, there goes the rest of those Diablo subs that I got that don't give a shit about my content anymore. So,
well, I mean, it's like I told you, man. Like, I think your opinions on MMORPG systems and your knowledge of all the MMOs you played, and relating that to Ashes, like I think that in itself brings value. And I know you always have this opinion where you think it doesn't bring value, but really, all YouTube is opinion pieces. That's all it is. And I think again, we're all just trying to help a company that is trying to make their first game. And it happens to be one of the most ambitious MMORPGs to ever probably come out.
It was quite the project to choose right out the gate.
Right. And I think your kind of expertise and your what you have to say, because there's a lot of people who can't articulate how they feel or what is fun to them or what is bad to them well. And I think you do that very well in your videos. You know what I mean? And so I've always told you, just make fucking videos, like, make more content, because I love it. I know other people love it, and but I understand the whole. It's hard to fish in a very, very small pond, and that's what the Ashes community is, right? Like you put all this hours of effort and editing into a video, and it gets 400 views. But again, it's like that shouldn't matter. What matters ultimately is me personally, I would rather make a video that gets 500 views than a video gets 50,000 views when my 500 view video is watched by the developers, watched by the freaking CEO of the company that I'm making for, rather than making a video with 50,000 views or 500,000 views for a company that will never even know I exist.
That's it. And there's a difference in content where you can see the people that, I'm not going to say they don't enjoy what they do, because they obviously do, but you can see the people who are doing it because that's their livelihood, that's their paycheck, and it feels kind of forced sometimes.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, and again, I understand the whole like wanting to keep the Twitch and YouTube gravy train going, right? Oh, yeah. But I think that ultimately fails when you stop being genuinely yourself, and you're then being a higher form of entertainer. And I think honestly, Narc, initially tried to be this entertainer, very trolly kind of personality, and I don't know if that's backfired for him, but now he's acting more himself, right? Like he's acting more of his genuine self. I mean, yes, is he trolly from time to time? Absolutely. But again, that's hard. It's really hard to keep that persona. I mean, Asmongold's talked about that too. The reason why he stopped the Asmongold persona is because it's tiring. It's just tiring to be that higher version of yourself, all like for 8 hours, 10 hours, 16 hours a stream, like every day. It's just, it's a lot. It's a mask, basically.
It is. And it's a lot easier to just be yourself. But some people some people don't like themselves, so they're not going to put that out there for other people to try to like too. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, the persona thing is great. Like, I think about Dr. Disrespect. The poor guy has to wear
I
that wig
know.
and glasses for life.
That's crazy.
But he's a super good entertainer too.
Oh, I know.
It's like anytime like he goes to a game convention or like has to go out in public, like he's still the 2-time. Yep, that's it.
The
He
2-time.
still has to put on the persona.
Yep, he has to become
and that sounds exhausting.
It
so
is,
power
dude.
to him and props to him.
There's an interview with him where he actually talks about that. And it's very much like, again, it's very exhausting because there's some days where you just don't want to become that persona. Like you just want to relax, you just want to chill. And it's like, hey, I am Dr. Disrespect, but hey, I'm just meeting you as myself. Like, thank you so much for being a fan. You know, but that's not what like when a fan meets you, they want you to encompass what they see every day, right? And so sometimes like even fandoms can be like, oh, I met Dr. Disrespect and he just greeted me like just some normie, you know, or whatever the case is, right? Like they want to have this very profound experience whenever they meet their favorite streamer, and they want it to be this, you know, authentic, you know, kind of thing. And again, every time someone meets Asmongold now, it's as authentic as you see it, because he doesn't fake it. That's what you see on stream is what you get when you go into Taco Bell or when you go to Walmart and you see him. Like, that's just the boy, you know, that's Zach. So
it's like Johnny Depp. Every time someone sees him, like you see those TikToks and stuff. Oh, and they always ask him to like they see him on the street and they're like, "Can you do a Jack Sparrow impression real quick?" And he's like,
yeah. But he usually does it. He's such a nice dude, man. Like, he's awesome.
He does. I'll give him that.
Yeah. All right, man. Are you ready to go? I think that was a pretty good pre-show. I loved our conversations. That was good, man. All right. Hold on. Let me check I want to check to make sure I am not going to run out of space. Oh shit. Thank God I checked. Okay. Give me 1 second. I need to delete some stuff because, man, that would have sucked.
Do you record this as you do it, or do you? Yep. Okay.
I do. Only because it just makes it easier for me. And that way
it's better quality that way too.
Right. And you help me with that. So, I mean, that's why I do it. Okay, we're good.
I do what I can.
All right. Starting the official 90th episode of the 1v1 podcast in 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, welcome back to the 1v1 podcast. I am your host, Vlhadus, and today has been a very special day, and therefore I have to have a very special guest. He is the 2-time, no, I'm just joking. He is my boy, Roarrior. How's it going, man?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Not as good as you are today, dude, but I am doing fairly well.
Yeah, man, honestly, I said this, earlier when I went live, man, like I know there's other content creators that have been working just as hard as I am, harder actually. And I was given this opportunity, and I feel like because those other content creators do work that hard, I don't want to let them down. Because it's one of those things where, we don't have many opportunities like this. And so we got to make the best of it. And I really do feel like we have a pretty fire content creator community in this AMA. And so with me, with Nice, with Jamie,
surprised with the amount of them.
Yeah, with Loreforge, like, because last year we only had 3. It was Richie, it was Smurg, and Chibri, and that was it. And they had 10 questions there. So now that it's 4 of us, we're getting 5 questions apiece. But I still
how are they doing Loreforged? Are they bringing everybody on, or are they just like nominate somebody?
I think it's just going to be Sunny.
Okay.
I think they're giving it just to Sunny. So it'll be me, Sunny, Jamie, and Nice.
Interesting. They should. I wonder if they live close together. The Loreforge guys. They should also just smash themselves into one camera.
Yeah, they all live in different states. I know. I think Jibs and Cash live in one state, and I think Sunny lives in a whole other state.
Yeah, they should get together and just smash themselves into one camera frame. That'd be pretty good.
I know, right? That would be the whole podcast. Oh my God. So me and you had a very good conversation yesterday. And honestly, like I wanted you to take the reins because I feel like this is your baby. Like, this is your opinion. And so what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about the
balance
feedback? Okay. Let's go into that first.
I want to start with balance because I know balance is going to lead to other things like
yeah, absolutely,
like meta and all that other good stuff. But I want to talk about balance because the more that we talk about balance, the more I personally do not understand it. And that's just the group balance thing. Like we've heard it 1,000 times. One-on-one combat is focused on the rock, paper, scissors trifecta, right? Like there's always going to be a counter to your class, and there's going to be a counter to that class, and that makes sense to me. But group balance, like, what's your take on group balance? How do you do that?
So, and it's like I was telling you, like I think my take on group balance is it truly depends on how important the Trinity is going to be in Ashes, because the conversations I've heard from Steven is that the Trinity is going to be important. I think you're gonna need a tank for world bosses. I don't think you're just going to be able to have all DPS and a healer or a couple of healers and be fine. I don't think that's going to be the case. So and this is again, I think balancing is quite easy in the Trinity sense because you have one primary tank and one primary healer, which is the cleric. And then
1K, bro.
Did it just happen? Holy God, guys. Holy
Apply
shit.
Right now, live on stream.
Oh my God, dude. That's awesome. Thank you guys. Holy shit. We hit 1K. 1K YouTube.
You did it, man.
Oh my God, dude. Today's been
a freaking
day, man.
Realsy.
I know. That's what I mean. For realsies. And that's ultimately that matters. No, okay, going back to your question. And again, thank you guys for supporting, for following everything you guys do. I am nothing without you guys, the community. So thank you. Now I believe, and this is actually one of the questions that I was saying yesterday about the whole tank and healer thing, but I think if you're going to balance around the Trinity being important and you have one primary tank, one primary cleric, which is the healer, and then you have basically 6 other DPS, 2 semi-being support, which is the Bard and Summoners. Summoner, we don't know truly if it's going to be a support class. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's going to be a jack of all trades kind of class, but let's just assume you're going to have 2 support classes, which means you're going to have 4 DPS classes.
Yeah.
And we were also talking yesterday about the augmentation system or the augment system in general, how maybe it's not going to be flavor, because how can it be? Like because if you're going to be balancing this whole architecture of 64 classes, or hell, let's not even talk about the 64. Let's talk about just the 8 primary.
Well, if you go to the wiki and you look up balance,
right?
They do say something along the lines. I posted it earlier. Let me look. Hang on. I want to get it right.
Okay.
And this is what confuses me a little bit more. if it's not one thing, it's another. Let me scroll up here. Hang on.
My wife, she was like, "Babe, you hit 1K subs." She's been watching. She's been so excited for me. I love her so much.
That's good, man. The support is good. All right, so this is on the wiki. The 64 classes are partitioned into 8 primary archetypes. Balancing of active skills only relates to these primary archetypes.
So it's all going to be based off of the primary skills, off of the primary classes. So not even talking secondary augmentations.
Not even talking like classes. The balance starts at the base.
Right. So at the foundational 8 primaries at that level. And again, I've always assumed it was going to be. And this is why I think a lot of people assume the augment system is just going to be flavor. Like, right? It's because if you're only balancing at that level, it's like truly like when we talked about this before, like a charge is a charge. Whether it's a blink, whether it's a leap, whether it's a charge, like some of the abilities I think have to transform more so than what it is. There has to be literal fundamental differences in how the ability functions when choosing a secondary class.
Right.
And I think if they do that, balancing is going to be a nightmare. 64 variants? Are you kidding me? Like, I mean, there's some companies that have trouble with 30, 20, right. You know what I mean? And so like we talked about this as well. I honestly feel people cry balance. Ashes community will cry balance, but ultimately they don't want balance, because balance means I will never feel overpowered. Every time I go up against somebody, it'll always be a challenge and I'll have to completely rely off my skill. And ultimately, that's not what people want. People, when it is like that, if it ever functions that way, people get upset because they never feel powerful. And I honestly feel like there's just, again, I'm also the opinion too, where I don't mind if certain classes have their moment in the sun for a patch,
right?
Where you have the ranger,
and that's the meta, right?
Right.
That's what creates a meta.
But I think it's going to be quite different because the meta in, let's say, a game like Classic WoW, you have to be a pretty hardcore player, in my opinion, to follow the meta in a certain sense. Now, with like SOD, you'll have certain classes that'll go like, be really overpowered and some will be underpowered or whatever. Mm-hmm. But to go from 1 to 60 in Classic WoW isn't easy. Like in the sense of how easy it is in a retail theme park spectrum, right? Like retail WoW, Final Fantasy 14, you can level very quickly in a lot of these MMOs. Even in Classic WoW, you can't. If you're playing like 4 to 6 hours a day, like you're not gonna hit 60 in a day. Right. Like in most of these other games, you can hit next level within a singular day. And so ultimately, I don't know. I honestly, I really don't know. And I don't think Ashes should strive for balance because I think, and let me be very clear, at a singular level, you will never have balance. And they're not trying to go for balance. And they've said this multiple times. They're not balancing at a 1v1 level. This is where the rock, paper, scissors approach comes in. But my whole thing is that if a rogue is scissors, can it ever become paper or rock? Or will one class always be this other class's kryptonite?
Well, see, and that's the other thing that I was reading on the wiki. And the other half of that is, if a mage is scissors and a tank is paper, the mage will always beat a tank, right? Well, then if you look on the wiki, they say, let me find it again. Hang on, guys. Here you go. Certain archetypes are capable of moving the gap between their counterpart. If I'm a tank archetype and a mage is my counter, I can take a mage secondary and bridge that divide slightly, and I can move my identity the direction into mage to help me not get wrecked by mages. So I'm not really sure. So is mage equal depending on the spec, or there's again, this all falls into group balance. Every time they say we're balancing around a group, well, PvE I can understand, right? Because if you have an 8-person group and this boss is tuned for 2 tanks, 2 healers, 4 DPS fight, and it should take around 1 to 1 minute 20 seconds to defeat this boss with a well organized group. Like I can understand that balance and then take into account damage numbers, cooldown effects, synergies, all of that kind of stuff. But and this is where I don't understand the group balancing, because if you have a fighter and Whirlwind is overperforming, Whirlwind will get adjusted whether you're in a group or you're solo. It doesn't even matter, right?
Right.
What's going on in there?
I don't know. They're just talking about like stupid shit.
Right. That's why I brought it up, Jamie, because we were just talking about it, and I'm still at a loss for balance. That's just the way it is.
Well, and again, I think
I just want them to clarify, how do I balance around a group setting?
I think and that's a very hard question, because anytime you have the mix of PvE content and PvP content, that's I can't expect a company to balance. And again, being in the WoW community and playing WoW for almost 16 years, the game was never balanced, nor in a PvP sense or in a PvE sense. Never.
Every time, and that's the thing, is every single time. So this is the one big thing that I think can definitely affect group balance, and that is the synergies. If there's just some super duper broken combo, because I don't even know, like the knockdown effect, like the shaken effect from fighters, like we knock them down and then somebody else hits them, or we shaken them and then somebody else hit them and that can knock them down. If one group's synergies between 3 or 4 characters is too strong, that will make that group comp completely OP, and they're going to have to adjust that. But when it comes to individual damage numbers, when it comes to cooldowns, when it comes to this class using this specific skill set with this specific weapon is super strong. They're not going to nerf that on a group based level. They're going to nerf that individual.
Right.
And that's ultimately going to affect their 1v1 and group performance. And that's just the way it is. So maybe, and this is what I was saying to Jamie earlier is, you know, I think they can call it group balance all they want, but it's still just going to come down to the individual performance. If this class is outperforming, that class gets nerfed. You're going to outperform in a group and you're going to outperform solo. That's just all there is to it. It's going to get adjusted.
Well, and again, you exacerbate that with a support class that knows what they're doing to make that same OP class more OP. Right?
Right.
I mean, it's, again, like but I also don't, if there is complexity in playing a class, meaning picking the right abilities, rotating them in a way that is impactful towards the class you're trying to kill, and knowing certain timings of your combos, knowing what weapons to pick, I don't mind that it's unbalanced, because a truly prepared player or someone who knows the game well enough could overcome that adversity by just the sheer amount of knowledge they have at their disposal. And this is the same problem I think Asmongold has talked about in WoW, and how he says that WoW is too complex. There's too many abilities. There's too much going on. I think Ashes is going to be somewhat of the same. If you can,
absolutely.
If you can have 30 to 40 abilities to choose from, and let's say you can choose 20 of them, and there's passives that are going on, there's also talents that are working in your favor, there's weapon combos in your weapon tree that are working in your favor, there's racials, there's augments, that is a lot of knowledge to know for just one class, for one variant of the 64, much alone all of the rogue, mage rogue, all of the mirroring combos. And
it's going to be a lot, man.
It's, again, I, in my mind, don't expect Intrepid to balance. Now, what I think ultimately people are asking for is, I don't want to be one shot. I don't want one class to be so overpowered that it's just like you basically two button me and I'm dead. Right. And I think there was a lot of people too, where they saw, that part in the stream of the caravan when all of the rangers opened up on that one dude, and just like 9 rangers basically bombarded him with snipe, and that person just got deleted. There were some people who didn't like that. They're so you're telling me that all we need to do is just...
That's never fun for anybody.
Well, yeah.
Guy doing the one-shotting.
Of course it is. But like, there was just people that they don't like whenever you can just Zerg your opponent like that. But me and you both know Zerging is inevitable. Like, how can you eliminate calculated or organized Zergs? You can't. Like, and I think a lot of times when there's games that try to do gamey approaches to eliminate Zergs, players tend to not like those things, and they tend to quit. Wow. Like, and I just think you have to kind of know the game you're kind of stepping into, ultimately. And I think the people that step into it knowing what they're getting themselves into can enjoy that experience. I think the people that honestly don't know and learn the hard way is when they realize, oh, this game sucks. Oh, this game is not good because you can do X and Y, and therefore I don't like it. And I think, again, when the general masses start watching people play the Alpha 2, or when you have content creators or Asmongold or just like any high profile kind of person talk about their experience and what they're seeing, that's why I always said, like, certain things can be exacerbated on the internet to like either be in favor of Ashes or let's all turn on Ashes because of what we just saw right now, right?
Absolutely.
The internet's a very fickle thing. And again, like, there's a lot of times where the internet can come together in agreement, because again, there's been games where people have tried to do that. They've tried to lambast the game in a very malicious way, and it backfired. Perfect example, Elden Ring. When Elden Ring came out, people were basically lambasting that game and basically saying of how hard it was. We need a difficulty mode. We need this. We need that. And then all of the From Software people were say, "Eat it, nerd." Nope.
That's currently happening with No Rest for the Wicked.
Really?
Yeah. The general feedback is this game is too hard, and they're like, "It's a Souls-like, man."
and
good.
And that's what I mean. If you don't know what you're stepping into, it's kind of your fault. You know what I mean? I mean, in my opinion, because I think, again, like, if I was looking at Elden Ring and I never played a From Software game, like, wouldn't I watch a couple of trailers? Or like, I don't me personally, I don't willy-nilly buy a $70 game on a whim. I'm not rich. Okay. I have to do my research a little bit to find out.
Not to this week. What are you talking
about? Well, you're rich, bro. Like, I mean, you can do that. But I mean, all I'm saying for me is I got to make some more educated kind of decisions for my purchasing. And I feel like there's people that do those willy-nilly purchases and then it's like it backfires on them, right? Oh, it's not the game they thought of, or they only buy it because their favorite streamer's playing it and they want to be like their favorite streamer or whatever the case is. But there's been a lot of games where I don't buy them because I just don't think I'd find a longevity of enjoyment with it, right? Like I might enjoy it for like 30 hours, but I won't, this won't be a game that I play forever. Like there's been a couple.
Honestly, that was me and Helldivers, man. I never picked it up.
I didn't pick it up either.
Discord is playing Helldivers. Yeah, I'm just sitting there.
Now,
twiddling my thumbs.
I've seen Helldivers a lot. Like I've watched Jamie play it. I've watched other people play it. It looks like a fun game, but I don't want to play a first-person shooter game. Like I don't want to play that kind of. Is it a third person?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That one is a third person.
Well, I just don't want to play a shooter. Like I don't want to play like that kind of a game. Like my mind is so set on wanting to play an MMORPG that it's like nothing else won't satisfy. The only thing that satisfies me right now is ARPGs. Like I've been playing a lot of Last Epoch. I've been playing Death Must Die, which is a really good game if you've never played it. Vampire Survivors, just all those kinds of like roguelike games. And honestly, those are very affordable. Like, and I've put in like 300 and some plus hours with Last Epoch. I put in probably over 100 hours in Death Must Die. Like, and so I get
it just comes down to your taste, man. If you can find enjoyment in that kind of game for hours and hours, like more power to you, dude.
Right.
It's much easier that way. I know some people that have to buy every single game that comes out and they're never happy. Half of them get refunded, and it's honestly, I feel bad for them because like I'm still sitting here, sometimes I play League of Legends or World of Warcraft, and I can have a good time in World of Warcraft. I know World of Warcraft gets a bad rap from just about everybody, because of the direction they took. But to me, that's my dungeon simulator, man. I'm not logging on for that MMO experience anymore. I'm not logging on to be immersed. I'm not logging on for the social aspect of the game. I want to log on. I want to run dungeons. I want to do some raids, and I'm going to log off. And I love that. Right. And a lot of my friends can't do that anymore because, they get upset about, I don't know, some mount getting given away or some shit. And it ruins it. But like, if you can find joy in those types of games and live your life that way, that's great, man.
Well, I mean, I just want to get back to the topic of balance real quick. So for you specifically, Roar, how would you want balance to be done? Like, I mean, do you want a truly balanced experience?
Well, I come from PvE, based games like again, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy. I like to raid. I have attempted to raid at a high level. And raiding is easy to, you're always going to figure out like the PvE balance of the PvE side of Ashes of Creation, that type of balance I'm not concerned about. I don't care about PvP balance or PvE, player versus environment balance, because players will figure out how to beat that boss. It will happen. Whether they nerf it or they don't nerf it, somebody will figure out how to beat it. They always do, always have. The issue comes down to mass PvP. When they say we are balancing with group play in mind. Okay, for mass PvP, how? If you like, let's say it's I mean, if it's open world, Fupo said it a little bit earlier that he thinks the word Zerg is misused for large scale group combat, organized combat. And it is. It absolutely is. Anytime you're outnumbered, that's a Zerg. Doesn't matter, right? They're gonna call it what they think it is. And when it might just be a very well organized group running around.
Right.
But if they have they said they want you to pick your party to the encounter. That's what's going to matter the most. Well, in mass PvP, what wins? What wins in mass PvP? Numbers and healers every single time.
All the time.
You won't always be able to predict your PvP interaction. So it's either going to be completely one-sided most of the time, or unless it's instance, because instance PvP, when numbers are equal, 40 versus 40, and you can actually choose who's walking into that instance, then you can have the correct comp and you can figure out balance. And in PvE, it's easy to do because boss has X amount of health you need to do X amount of DPS within X amount of time to beat it. And then depending on how the majority of those fights are going, they will adjust it, right? They'll make it harder or they'll make it easier or they'll just leave it alone because they feel that it's obtainable.
Right.
But how do you balance group PvP, especially in open world scenarios? I'm very, very curious what their take's going to be. If it's anything like any game we've ever played, it's going to be two groups standing on either side of a ravine, and it's going to be crazy amounts of AoE shot back and forth until they start to see some of the red names dwindle, and then the front line will move in. And it really only comes down to who has more numbers and who has more healers.
Right.
And that's going to be the victory. So I'm like, they can't do anything about it. There's nothing you can do about it. But how do you adjust group balance if this group has 20 healers and this group has 3?
So
is there even balance in mind at that point? I don't think so.
I just want to. There's someone in chat, Wookie Ashes. I want a balanced game. Otherwise, many players will just play the meta and ruin gameplay unless you're also playing the meta. So I agree with you. Playing a retail MMORPG experience. So the meta and what could be the meta at the launch of Ashes of Creation could fundamentally change just literally in a single hotfix.
But you gotta understand what meta means.
Okay.
Meta just means that is the most agreed upon strat for that particular type of combat. What's meta in PvP might not be the meta, in PvE. What's my stupid Ring doorbell's going off? What's meta in a small scale PvP gank might not be the meta build for large scale PvP. So in this game is giving us so many different styles that I don't think one true meta will show itself. And just to answer Mr. Valentine's question, I saw him post that. Do we scale to the general populace even if it means the truly skillful can abuse their class correctly? No, because there's always going to be an outlier.
Always.
If 0.2% of the rogue populace is destroying people because they're just genuinely skilled, they're not going to nerf the entire rogue class because 0.2% of the population is really, really good. Like when they look at nerf numbers or that data to make adjustments, I mean, if they're doing it like, let's say World of Warcraft does, they're going to pull data from hundreds of thousands of interactions. And they're going to say, yeah, it looks like it's outperforming like 2%. It should probably be mildly adjusted. And that's where those weird numbers, like we nerfed Rupture by 4.1%. You're like, what the hell is 4.1%?
Right.
Because, the majority of the data, that's what that provided.
Right.
So I think there's always going to be outliers. And usually the top 1%ers are such a small portion of that class, like, player pool that it's not usually enough to influence a massive change, at least in my experience.
So when I talk about the meta, I had to do it for Burns. Hopefully I did a good job. The meta. I think of literally vanilla WoW and Burning Crusade in my experience. Ulting back then was kind of non-existent. People played a singular, and this was not when YouTube was all the rage. And I honestly think even if YouTube was the thing to do, I honestly feel like the meta would be very hard to do. And the reasoning why is because the time it took to level and the time it took to earn gear to become powerful. And also, even if you were to follow...
But you guys all got to throw in there that the incredible cost to respec your skills to find the meta back in the day.
Oh, yeah. And again,
absurd.
And there was people who did do that back in the day that they would get the blue notes and be like, fuck. Like the thing that I just talented into got nerfed, or the thing I just, and that was the hard part.
200 gold into my respec.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and again, gold back then was very hard to come by. And Ashes, and there's a lot of people who believe like, is Ashes going to be all figured out by the time we get to the live launch? I think in certain ways we will, but ultimately, if Intrepid is still with that single single character mentality, because Steven's talked about that. This is not a game that is you play the account kind of thing, like, or like you're going to have a multitude of alts, because I think the process in leveling and gearing and getting a singular character to an optimal end game level is not going to be the same as it is in World of Warcraft, and not the way the same it is in Final Fantasy 14. So even
I think Ashes of Creation might be the very first game that we've had in a long time that's going to turn an altaholic into a single character mindset.
And I am an altaholic.
Right?
I am.
Well, so am I. Like,
yeah.
and I don't know if I'm an altaholic because I want to play other things, or because I have more time to game than most, and I just get bored and I need to level something new. Like, that's generally what happens for me. But like, I've thought about this a lot, and paired with Ashes of Creation's incredible leveling time, which, you know, is going to be a daunting task, but like the progression systems within this game are so deep, and there's so many of them that I don't even see the point in leveling in alt, because every hour you spend on that alternate character, everybody else that's stuck with one character will be progressing one of these many systems.
Thank you.
Like, I can't really see a world where anybody gets like super maxed out on everything that there is to do. Maybe, you know, somebody's going to know life the game and achieve that. But like, think about World of Warcraft. Like, it's super easy to like level a character, get to a near maximum item level within a couple of weeks if you get lucky on drops. And then what do you do after that? You raid, and then you log on somebody else, because there's not much else to do. You can do your professions, but professions in most games nowadays doesn't take a large amount of time. But in Ashes of Creation, there's the religion stuff, there's your character, there's all the different skills, there's all the different professions, helping your guild with all of their stuff. Plus, you know, I don't even know all of the progression systems within Ashes, but I feel like any kind of alternate play is just going to be a waste.
Yeah, it's
especially if you're a min-maxer.
Yeah, I think if your approach to playing Ashes in a way to be as optimized as possible on a character, playing another character is just going to slow your main character progress down.
Yeah.
And I think we're not used to that. And I think there's also a conditioning in being an MMO player today, because if you're an MMO player today, you've had this convenience in all these MMOs for probably over 10 years. It's very easy to be an altaholic in EverQuest, I'm sorry, into ESO, into into BDO, into World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, Guild Wars 2. It's very easy because you can level very quickly. And there's also now microtransactions where you can just purchase to max level. Hey, you know, and so there's a lot of stuff to where the ease of doing the hamster wheel loop at endgame, and a lot of times the endgame is just raiding. You're doing a singular raid for weeks, months. So why not just try another character and do the same thing on a different tune? It's like a reskin, basically, you know. But here's the thing, like, and we've talked about leveling, because I know you have a very passionate approach to like how long leveling should be in Ashes. In my way of thinking, when I was playing or vanilla WoW, like my first introduction to WoW, I never really, my mindset then wasn't about hitting max level, because the journey, the adventure was already satisfying. And playing with friends, like I remember being level 36 when I was in Ashenvale. I was level 43 when I was in Tenaris. Like, I remember very specific things because I stayed that level for quite a while. I was like, what is it? Thoughtbotting or T-Hotbot. Like, there was like a website back then where you, where you basically looked up to see how do you do a certain quest and stuff like that. And, but I took
the old WoW head.
Yeah, basically. And I took my time. Like, I took my time because I wasn't in a race with anybody. And I honestly feel like with Ashes of Creation, most of the time why players race to endgame is because that's where all the fun shit is. Like, in every game, there is nothing fun in leveling. Like, from 1 to 59 or 1 to 69 in most other MMOs, there's nothing fun. There's nothing productive, nothing meaningful for you to do during that time until you finally ding the max level, and now all the fun shit unlocks. Ashes isn't going to work that way. You can do meaningful shit at level 9. You know what I mean? And I think that's why, for me, I mean, I think leveling will be an important aspect for like the optimizers, the min-maxers, the people that want the power for their character. But I think for the most part, like, I think a lot of people will just have fun in that journey, that adventure. And I think having that ding moment in Ashes is going to feel way more meaningful because of the work and the hopefully the fun that you're having while putting in that work. And MMOs don't feel like that today. They feel like a casino. Like it feels so quick. Like I can play retail WoW right now. Like me and my wife, like we're playing it, and I started off with classic WoW just to kind of show her what an MMORPG is. And she told me she actually preferred classic WoW's leveling to retail WoW's leveling because she, in her opinion, she was learning so much
fast in retail.
Yeah, she was learning. She had all these abilities on her bar, and it was just too much.
Like speed dating.
Yes, it really is. And so when she was playing classic, she felt like I got to actually learn these abilities first before I learned new ones. Yeah. And I was already having shit thrown on my bar.
And that sucks because that's just bad game design.
Right. And I think I think companies are afraid to slow down players. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why. I think because, again, they probably know, well, all they just want to go is rush to max level. So developers don't even put much effort or thought into the leveling process anymore. It's just a means to an end.
It is. And it's in a weird predicament because there's people like us that, like, we know how much content is in, let's say, World of Warcraft between 1 and max level. We know how much content is there. And to us, it feels like a waste because they're not using it. But the majority of an MMORPG player's, like a real MMORPG player's life is going to take place at maximum level. Right. And that's honestly the case with World of Warcraft. Like, they're not bringing in a ton of new people. And they're we got to give them, the benefit of the doubt because they're in a difficult situation with that, where if they release new content, and they do happen to bring in a couple of new players who want to go, oh, my friends play this. They say it's great. I'm going to join them. If they bring them in and their buddies are already off pursuing the new quest line, learning their dragon riding and trying out the new dungeons, and you're a brand new guy and you have to play 200 hours of shit to catch up without a boost, that's not fun for anybody.
No.
Especially, because 95% of the game lives it in game. And the player base, that's just what they are. There is 20 years of content there. That's a lot to make somebody go through versus a new game with not 20 years of content. It's much easier to convince somebody that you got to play through this amount of content before you can get to the good stuff. And that's not bad game design that say, oh, the leveling process is useless because all the game lives it in game. That's just the way I think we forget, like, that's what MMOs were. Right. No MMO had anything from 1 to 50. Like, there were some games like EverQuest had cool dungeons and drops you can go get, but ultimately your goal is leading up to the end game.
Exactly.
Like, that's just what it was. Ashes is probably the first game in a long time where they're trying to break that mold with the whole node system and excuse me, provide more content, make that 1 to level 50 leveling process meaningful. It's the first game, and we don't even know if it's going to work yet.
Right.
We're all in love with the dream that it's going to work. We don't know if that's actually what everybody wants or if it's just a small handful of, fanatical MMORPG players that we are. Right. We don't know if that's going to be, suitable, because that is a bad mentality.
Yeah.
Where the game lives it in game. And some players who are ill-informed or haven't paid attention to Ashes of Creation, they're going to come into this thinking my game starts at end game, and they're going to try to plow their way through it and get there. Right. And they're going to skip stuff. But that was my argument for my video, where some people were calling for a longer leveling time.
Sorry, I saw Sir it says, don't let your dreams become memes, follow Ashes. Right. I don't know why that just cracked me up. I'm sorry.
No, as soon as I said it, I saw him. I saw it smoke. But EQ1 did have a good amount of questing, and the content was about actual gameplay experience and grouping, really. And it was. Mm-hmm. But think about what happened. So think about what happened, Fupo, when Planes of Power expansion launched, and you had the Plane of Hate and the Plane of Nightmares. Like, and all my buddies were in there raiding, and I was level 30. And that ruins it. Like, that takes all of the other content. That takes all of the other content out of it, and it just makes you want to get to the end game even faster. Now, some games have done some things where it will allow a max level player to go back down and play with their low level friend, Ashes isn't going to have that. They're not going to have scaling. So I wonder what happens, like, in these low level dungeons that we've seen in Ashes of Creation. What happens if a high level player comes back and wants to play with their low level friends and run that dungeon with them? Are
Right.
they going to soak up all the experience? Are they going to, are they going to make that experience, less meaningful because they're one shotting everything? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
That's something I haven't really thought about before for Ashes of Creation. What happens when your friend joins 3 months after you and you really want to play with your friend? How do you take that meaningful grind away from him?
Well, do you think a level like, let's say, a 27 character, can they play with a level 1? Like, and it not just be like a complete overpowering of content for that person. Um, I think there's certain aspects scaling could fix
I
that,
hope so.
but I'm not a fan of scaling. I don't know how you feel particularly about scaling.
Scaling sucks.
Yeah, I don't like it either. But how
It
would
it
I mean,
ruins the progression.
yeah, no, it does, and it ruins the whole power dynamic too. Like, I mean, it's just like, wait a minute, I have my level 1 friend, now I feel de-leveled or depowered? Like, what?
Right.
Like, it doesn't feel good.
Like, I hate the way that, like, Final Fantasy does it because, like, if you queue up for, like, a lower level dungeon, it takes your abilities away. So, like, you have your abilities, like, on your hotbar and you have it figured out, the way you have them hotkeyed the way you like them, and then, like, you're, like, max level and you join a dungeon and it kicks you into, like, a level 50 dungeon, and then now literally half your abilities are grayed out on your bar, and you're like, you don't even know how to do your rotation anymore, and it just feels so goddamn bad.
right.
But
Well, I mean, so Wookie asked the question. He says, "So will big guilds take their lower level friends through harder dungeons to skip gear progression?" Honestly, they don't even need to do that because,
that's also been happening since the beginning of time.
oh yeah, but in Ashes, all like if you are 5 months in and you have like a friend enter in your guild, they're already going to have crafted gear already to give you at whenever you
Yep.
ding a certain level. Like, they already got those recipes from those dungeons.
Everything is shareable and tradable.
Right. Well, that's craftable.
So
Now, there is the quest stuff that you saw when Steven was questing. That was soulbound. All the
it
quest
was,
stuff was
and
soulbound.
I'm not sure if they're going to change that because we've been told like
Right.
everything is going to be tradable aside from like I think maybe not legendaries if I remember right.
Yeah, I think they are still keeping that approach. I just think specifically for questing, they're making questing gear soulbound. So that way, it's like, hey, you got that, you completed that quest, like you get this piece, but only you. Like, you're not gonna be able to trade that to your friend. But if you want to level like a crafting profession and do that and make that gear, you can give that piece to you, your friend, whoever. Like, it's all tradable at that point. And honestly, I think that's actually a good approach. I really do, because my whole fear was just
Well,
that.
if it's like a super unique quest item, you don't want to be able to just take it and throw it on the auction house, right?
Right. Or give it to your alts, or even give it to a friend of yours. Like, I think that stuff should be a little bit more personal to you because you completed that quest. But I think the fact that the crafting gear is going to be the best stuff to put on yourself, and all of that being shareable is going to be, again, like, the lower level player won't even need to jump into that dungeon or even a raid, because if those crafters already have the recipes that were earned through those dungeons and raids, all you need is the mats. That's it.
I think about there was a cheat code back in EverQuest days. Maybe Fupo will remember this, where like high level druids could cast really high level thorns spells. And like I had this druid buddy who would literally he was so bored, he would just come follow me around and cast thorns on me. And then anything that touched me would instantly get one shot and I'd get all the experience for it.
That's awesome.
And like that was power leveling. You just run around and like yeah. That was the power level back in the day. Because thorns only lasted like 15 or 20 minutes. It wasn't a huge spell.
Right.
But they would cast thorns on you and you just go to town and anything that touched you just killed itself. And you were like, this is pretty sweet.
And again, I think,
but I wonder about stuff like that in Ashes. Like if I have a level 5 buddy and I'm level 50, you could potentially just give him the best possible gear through crafting that you can make at level 5. And then, would he just be a powerhouse for a couple of levels? And then if you just keep up with that, give him that full set of level 5 gear, let him use it till he out levels it, strip it off of him, throw it on the auction house so you make some money back, build him a new set of gear and let him go again. Like I think that's a lot to say. Not having restrictions on gear trading. I think that's going to go a long way in power leveling.
Well, in what you just described, I want that to happen. I
Yeah.
do. I want that to happen. I want, if you go
That's the
into a
social
really
aspect.
exactly, if you go into a really good guild, they have a bunch of gear to give you, and it's all overpowered. That you're going to be the most overpowered level 5 there is in existence. This is the best
Yeah.
leveling level 5 shit you're ever going to put on. That's awesome, and I think that's what keeps people playing the game, right? Like, you're gonna have the people that already trudged and were all in the gray and green gear that had to work so hard to like go through
Yep.
something, and then, hey, I already did all that hard shit, like here's some blues and epics and mythics or whatever gear you want, and just have fun. That's the thing. People, or I wouldn't say people, but these developers forget why we're playing a game, to fucking have fun. Like,
Feel overpowered.
fun is not something in the developer's vocabulary anymore, man. Like,
No.
every time fun occurs,
It's money now.
it's all money, it's all transactional, it's all microtransactions. Like, you literally can't experience fun. And I think that to me is like, when I heard Steven multiple times say the word fun, is when I was like, finally, a company that acknowledges fun. And I think anytime you hamper that or you stomp that out of your own game, and especially the people, like, of course, we've been in the community for a long time. Like, if we started noticing that from Steven and the developers, it's just going to make us feel like, what are we doing? Like, why are they doing this? Like, why are they being the fun police all of a sudden? You know what I mean? Like, and I can understand for some very crazy outliers that where stuff like that doesn't happen, you know, but for the most part, like, it's fine. Like, it's okay. They're going to replace that gear at level 11. They're level 5 now. They're going to replace that gear at level 11. Who cares if they're overpowered for 6 levels from level 5 to 10? Who cares? Like, and that's what I mean. Like, I think there's just this level of, oh, like, we got to make it fair. We got to make it this. Well, guess what? Especially in MMORPG, stuff isn't fair. There is going to be someone better than you. There's going to be someone that got that recipe that you didn't get. It's not fair. I'm sorry. But hey, that's why I always say there's safety in numbers. Be in an organized guild. Be with people that are smarter than you, and I can guarantee you will have a good time.
I'm playing solo.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna be the solo guy. I'm gonna be like Kirito in
oh my god, in Sword Art Online.
in the first season of Sword Art Online. I'm gonna be guildless and I'm gonna beat the game solo.
Oh god, you're one of those players. Okay, that's a very good question though. That is a very good question, because I know a lot of people that have come from MMORPGs and they've asked me this: is Ashes a game that you can play solo? And I tentatively say yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
With caveats, because I think you can. I don't think it's advised. I wouldn't recommend to play solo, but I think it is a game that you, because Classic WoW you can play solo. I don't advise to play Classic WoW solo in my opinion. Oh, Phantom, what's going on, man? I don't recommend it, but what I didn't like about Classic WoW is how you got penalized for being in groups. Now the XP is split, right? So it's like, I don't want to be in a group with you because now I'm getting 50 experience when I was getting 120 experience when I was killing shit by myself. And I think, you know, this game, I would love Ashes to incentivize group play. And
well, I think they are. I don't think we have to worry about them trying to do that.
Right.
I think they are.
Right.
But I think you can absolutely play the game solo.
Well,
I think you can treat it like a solo game until, like, it depends on the experience you want to have. Like,
right.
obviously, if you know that there's this really cool thing that drops from this dungeon, you're gonna need a group. If you're okay with bypassing that and just getting to the end game, I think you can absolutely get there solo.
Right.
And like, let's say you just want to live a crafter lifestyle, right? You could probably do that solo. You might.
Oh, 100%.
You might have not the greatest experience because I'm going to be the guy sitting in the bushes waiting for you to pick that flower, and I'm going to come take that thing.
Right.
And that sucks for you. But ultimately, like, there is some solo gameplay. But, you know, that's been the MMORPG experience for a really long time. You can always play solo in any game. It doesn't matter which one you want. You can play solo until you can't. And that's just all there is to it. Like, the main thing about MMORPG since the beginning of time has been either PvP or PvE. And like, the best, coolest experiences, the best stuff always comes from group-based combat. You cannot get the best stuff solo. You just can't. You can play solo, sure, but you can't have the best stuff solo. And if you want that, you got to find somebody to group up with. That's just the end all be all.
Right. I mean, there's times where I want to play solo. Like, I want to just chill. I just got home from work. I don't want no one in my ear. I just want to chill, put on some lo-fi music, just veg out and just
Yeah.
mindlessly grind or mindlessly do something on the computer and have a good time doing that.
I
Um,
generally level solo, like in World of
right.
Warcraft. Like I have a different pace like than my buddies, and it's hard because they always want to group up. But then they like, hey, can I join your group and level with you? And I'm like, sure, go ahead. And I invite them, and then like I accept the quest, and I'm already like 30 yards away, and I'm like, dude, where are you at? And he's like, oh, I was reading the quest text, and then I found a rock to mine halfway there.
Right.
Like, then I forgot my gear was broken. I had to go back and sell. And I'm like, yeah, disband group. I'm going to do this alone.
Well, I think repairing gear is going to be very interesting in this game comparatively to a lot of other games where it's just a gold sink.
People aren't ready.
No, people aren't ready.
They're not ready.
And I don't even know if I am, to be honest. Like, I think it's going to be a pretty good transition for me to rely off of materials to repair my gear rather than just to go hit an anvil and I'm fully repaired. You know what I mean? But again, it is what it is. I see Mr. Valentine asked a question. He says, what are your thoughts on the mayoral station? Should this be a coveted position where your node raises or falls on the leadership, or should it be something that you can just be done easily? What would be a way you would make this position that way?
I think it needs to be challenging. I don't think it should be something where decisions can just be made kind of willy nilly. Um, and I think the community needs to be involved in everything that happens. Like ultimately, it's the mayor that pulls the trigger, but all of the decisions should be left up to the community.
Yeah. And I think honestly,
And that can be difficult because people do not agree on anything.
No, for sure. And that's why I think certain nodes should rise and fall based off of its leadership, based off of the person structuring certain buildings that the citizens were like, dude, we didn't want this building type. Like, why did you build it? Like, why did you do these things? Like, and again, all off of feedback, and I think, again, whenever you're leaving feedback to your leadership and they're not following, you start to question. And this is the entire reason why I'm gonna love the drama in Ashes of Creation, because it's all thrived off of making certain decisions, and you got to take the good with the bad sometimes. And again,
bye mayor at that point.
Exactly. And then again, if it's a mayor you have to vote in, you're not gonna be voted in next time. But if it's a mayor that again has to go, if it's a military mayoralship, maybe there's some kind of a battle, and now all these people are gonna want to gun for that mayor to make sure that he does not make it to the end, right, to become the mayor again.
Right.
So I love that
honestly,
aspect personally.
Yeah, that I mean, it sounds great, but I think what Thogly said, that guild leaders have to step in. I honestly don't think normal people are going to be mayors, just because unless like you're super duper good PvP or like. But think about it: the people that are going to be voted in, or the people that have to buy their way in through like the economic nodes, like those people will be guild people. They're probably going to be
100%.
officers or leaders. Like there's no way a random player, like let's say me, I do want to try to do like the solo thing, right? I'm not gonna do like I'm never like people don't know me. No one's ever gonna vote me into a mayor position. It's just not gonna happen. Maybe I'm super good at PvP and I can fight my way in through the military one, but ultimately, like, and even like to be the most devout for like the religion node mayor, like there's always somebody who's a better grinder than you are, and they're gonna work their ass off for that. So it's like it's really hard. But I don't think normal casual, solo or low group players are ever gonna be in that type of leadership position. I just don't think there's a spot for it.
Well, and again, I think that, I've always said this. I don't think singular people will be mayors, guilds will be mayors, because it would be very poor if I, someone in my guild is like an officer or whatever, and I start making decisions that are not even by the citizens of my node, that they don't like my decision making, and then my guild was like, dude, we went over this. We chose not to have those building types. Why did you do this? Now I'm an enemy towards my citizens and my own guild by my decisions. And
Asmongold,
100%. And so
Asmongold's gonna do whatever the hell he wants to do, and there's nothing anybody can say about it.
No, for sure. And again, in a game where you can literally kill somebody go ahead. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's where the laterality comes in, right? Of like making certain decisions will have certain consequences. You know, the whole fuck around and find out is going to be very true in Ashes of Creation. And I think there hasn't been a level of accountability that I don't think players have had in current MMORPGs. And I think that level of accountability is going to be very apparent when playing Ashes of Creation. I mean, do you not agree?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. There's going to be a lot of, I think, learning.
Oh,
when it comes to
100%.
how people are elected in the choices that they made. Like, think about it, right? Like, you have 3 people like on the ballot, right? You see like Asmongold is running for mayor, Narc is running for mayor,
Oh my God.
and then like Joe Blow, who nobody has ever heard of.
No one knows.
And he's in a guild of like 13 people. Like, who are you gonna choose? Like,
Hey, I would
if you
choose Joe Blow, man.
Blow,
Hey, just shoot. Because how much of a meme would that be,
vote
man?
for Pedro.
Yeah, exactly. Vote for Pedro, and then Pedro ends up winning. Like, dude, I could see it being a meme and being like, wow, this nobody beat out these 2 huge profile
Could
names.
you imagine? But then like he builds like, I don't know. I don't even know how the buildings go. Like,
I know.
What could you build that's going to upset everybody and make them vote you out? Like, those are the things we need to figure out. Like,
there's a lot of building types for nodes.
There really is. But it's just, what can I build that would, like, you know, make people upset? But then like the voting thing, right?
Right.
You can vote mayors out. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of voting system. And like, if you have a guild that's 300 people strong and like the node's trying to vote you out, your entire guild can vote against that and keep you in office.
Right.
So like, there's going to be a lot of politics, and there's going to be a lot of learning curves, like who to trust, who to promote, and, you know, who to vote out. Like, those are going to be massive decisions in leadership. Like, which nodes do we try to destroy? Which ones do we want to grow? Like, hey, this X server has this dungeon that's dropping this crazy rare thing that's going to build like the best swords ever. And like, that's currently like a level 2 vassal node that's locked out 3 nodes away from a metropolis. Like, that's a big decision to make, to go in there and try to destroy that and grow something new. Like, that's massive.
Dude,
There's gonna be a lot of mistakes made.
I just can't wait till like whenever, you know, you have this like person that wants to be a mayor and does this, like he has like 3 subscribers on his YouTube channel. Has, yeah, like and he literally goes in some like, you know, like Nokia video camera. It's all shitty quality. It's like 360p video, and he's there like all like, hi, my name is Joe Blow, and I am running for mayor in my node or in my server. And it just blows up. Like, you have all these people like, I'm gonna vote for that guy. Like, that's like, the videos I can't wait for.
I know that Sonny already made like his mayoral campaign video.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I can't wait till like there's actual.
Like, I know.
God, dude, true. Like,
dude, it's gonna be so good.
You need to vote for me for this. No, this is what we're gonna do. Like, it's gonna be massive,
dude. It's gonna be freaking funny as shit. And again, this
I'm gonna make a mayoral node campaign video for every single one,
dude. I think
every single one.
But what game like has these kinds of tools or this kind of a role play aspect to them, right? Like, where you're literally getting the community support and like engagement aspect to be like, hey, recognize me, like I'm this person you never heard of that wants to be mayor of your node. Like, I just think that
this
shit
is why it's a good idea to vote me in.
Yeah. Like, I think of all the memes and all the fun stuff that can become of that, and that's and again, fun. Like, that's the beauty of this game to me, is the fact that there's so many principles and so many systems that placate that word fun over and over and over again, you know. And anytime that a game can do that, it spells success for me. But how do you feel, Roar, when Steven says this game isn't for everybody? Like, how do you feel
game is for everybody?
Well, that's true. But do you think because do you think he means it even more so for Ashes, like in the MMORPG space, when he says that term?
I think it's all right. This is my honest opinion, and it could be completely wrong or completely right. But when Steven says that the game's not going to be for everybody, I think that is like a PR statement,
like a buzz phrase,
right?
Okay.
Like, and that's going to help quell the temperaments of some of the people that might dislike some of the systems. Like, it's easy to say that, right? No game is for everybody. That
Right.
everybody knows that. It just doesn't work. The thing is he wants people to play his game. Like, he's making a game. He's very excited about his game. He wants people to play the game. You can't have both. And one of them to me stands truer than the other one. Like, if I'm going to put millions of dollars into this to make a game that I really, really want the whole world to try out, I'm not going to come out and say, "Nah, I don't care if you don't play my game." Right? I think there's a side of Steven that really, really, really wants this game to succeed. And not just succeed with like a sustainable player base, but like the new WoW, right? He wants it to be that new giant. And they are doing a lot of things that would make you think that they're trying to appeal to the largest group. The PvP is really the only setback. The PvP is the only thing that is going to hurt the game in the long run, I feel, because the PvPers are the minority. That's just the way it is. Everybody says they like PvP, but then no one actually partakes in it because there's 1,000 PvP games out there, and not a lot of people that you talk to in the MMOR space are playing these PvP games. PvPers are the minority, and I think that's going to hurt the general side of things. But they're doing all of these things to police PvP. They're doing a lot of things to make PvP make sense, where a lot of games in the past have not. PvP is just there, and it ruins people's playtime, and it's over. And that's just all there is to it. This game is doing things to fight that. But then they're doing like the 64 class system where you can literally you can wear any armor, you can use any weapon, you can do all of this different thing. Why would you make a class system that appeals to everybody's fantasies if the game is not going to be for everybody?
Right.
They're literally letting you do everything that you want to do as far as the combat system works, or the crafting system, or owning a home. Everybody wants to own a home. That's a huge thing in the MMO. They're doing a lot of things that appeal to a general, like, grand populace of the player base, but then they also come out and say, "Oh, it's not for everybody," even though we're making a lot of things for a lot of people. Like, I don't know. I don't.
Well,
I think it's just said to kind of make people feel okay that if I don't like a particular system, that's something you can fire back at me with. Well, it's not for everybody, so it sucks that you don't like that, right? I think it's a little bit of just a statement to kind of calm the emotions, maybe.
well, I personally think that, and I was kind of wrong about this, to be honest. Like, um, Elden Ring really shocked me because I know From Software games aren't for everybody. Like,
Mhm.
they're not. And yet Elden Ring sold more than 20 million copies. Seems like it's a game for somebody when it's at that point, right? Like, you don't hit 20 million, buys on a game if it's not for a large amount of people.
I mean,
But
yeah, my good buddy bought it, got lost somewhere in the first 30 minutes, never logged in again. So
well,
it's
hey,
clearly not for him.
hey, you know what I mean? And I understand that, especially with
Yeah.
that many people.
Absolutely.
But the fact is that game is for an audience.
Mhm.
And there's so many MMOs that are audience-less, meaning these developers tried to make a game for everybody. And you basically appease nobody because
Right.
your game was so all over the place and so general that it's like everybody that played it was just like, well, I like this aspect a little bit, but it's like it feels hollow, it feels empty, it feels soulless in a sense, no pun intended. But I mean, it doesn't feel like it has anything to it. And when games actually are catering or has a vision to a specific audience, people outside that audience could recognize that and be like, hey, like, I want to try this game. Like, I've never, and because they did that with Elden Ring. Dude, I saw a girl on Twitch who was known for playing Mario Kart 6 play Elden Ring.
Well, there's also
What the hell?
but that's the strength of what we have today that we didn't have 10 years ago. And that's the maximum amount of like YouTube channels to fuel the hype. And I'm not saying like fake hype, like, oh, play it because it's good. Like, once this game is out, you will see people's true reactions. And those reactions are what fuel people to kind of jump on that same train. And we haven't had that with games in the past. Also the streamers. Like you can, if you click on 19 people's streams and they're all having the best day of their life because it's super fun, even though there's one or two systems within it that may not appeal to you, you're going to try it. And that goes a long way, like being able to actually see people's fun. And I think that's kind of what happened with the game you were just talking about. Remind me of the name. Go.
Elden Ring.
Elden Ring. God damn it.
Elden Ring.
Spaced out. But like Elden Ring got more popular as time went on.
Right.
It didn't just launch and then they sold gajillions of copy. And that's because people were seeing the genuine fun that other people were having with it. The challenge, the exploration, like it wasn't just another cash grab game, and that goes a long way.
Well, not only was it a great game for what it was doing, you also had streamers saying, hey guys, like this game isn't, there were people saying that this game isn't for everybody. I don't know if you'll like it. Like watch me play it, see if you might want to try it or whatever. But there was also a degree of difficulty where people felt up to the challenge. They're like, oh, you're saying I can't do this? Like, let me fucking try. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, it's such a refreshing thing in a world where games hold our hands and give us things for little effort.
Here's a participation trophy.
And then, exactly. And then so I currently, God damn it, YouTube. I have like 5 videos that I want to make and I haven't made them. And I have this whole script written about participation rewards, and every single time I think about the participation rewards, I always jump back to 21 Jump Street when they go back to did you see that movie with Channing Tatum? When they go back to his house and there's the medal on the wall and he's like it's literally a participation trophy. It's literally a trophy for sucking. It's so funny. It makes me think of that every time. But it's true. Like games just hand us stuff nowadays, and it's so like.
Do you remember that meme of it's like a cartoon meme of the guy that's like celebrating all hardcore? It's like a NASCAR thing. He's like doing this and stuff, but he's like 9th place. You know?
No,
you've never seen that meme? Okay, I gotta find it and send it to you. It's like, you know, because there's like person that's like 1st place and he's like celebrating all like regular and shit, and then there's the guy that's like truly celebrating, he's like 9th place. That's kind of like how I feel for people who celebrate participation trophies. It's like they go all crazy because they feel like they earned something that they just logged in for. Like, really bro? Achievement unlocked, you passed the tutorial.
It is.
It's so true. It's so true.
Like I'm starting to see that more and more in like League of Legends. I don't know how many of you guys play League of Legends, but you're starting to get like achievements and titles and stuff. Like I put a ward down in a bush and they're like, you get eyes everywhere. God. Title. I'm like, for what? I didn't do anything. It's spreading. It's spreading like a virus. And it really does keep some players engaged. And that's the thing that's like, for us, it seems pointless. And then for some people, it's actually exciting. And I think developers care more about the people who find it exciting than us who just were like, really, give me a challenge. Let me do something meaningful and earn something. And it's just, I don't know, it's becoming more and more of a problem. And I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
Well, I want to
aside from Ashes.
I do want to talk about challenge, but we're going to talk about that in the after show. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we end the episode?
I don't even remember what we started with. No, I think we're good, man.
Feedback and balance.
Oh yeah, that's right. No, I think I'm good. I'm trying to learn everything I can about their balancing, other than it's balanced for a group. Because again, I'm dumb. I don't understand what that means, but I don't think we'll see it until we actually see it, and that's fine. I'm not saying it's make or break for me. I'm still gonna play it and enjoy it. I just want to see it happening. I can't wait till those balance patches start rolling in, and we can see the numbers and how they work. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm excited for that.
And Roar, where can people find you online?
Roarrior on YouTube. And what am I here? I am Roarrior on Twitch. Yep.
Awesome.
That's my place. I make MMORPG content sometimes.
It needs to be all the time.
I'm working on it.
And Roar, thank you so much for coming on, man. And we're going to be doing an after show right now. So guys, if you're watching this episode of my 1v1 podcast, make sure to come up and watch it on Vlhadus Gaming and watch the whole live so you can look out the whole show. But guys, thank you all so much. And my boy Roarrior, I'm gonna leave the in the description. I'm gonna leave his places to find him. So go sub to his channel. Go watch him on Twitch. He is a good dude. All right. I am your boy Vlhadus. That is that is our boy Roarrior, and we will see you guys on the next one. Later, guys. Hey, what's up? What are you doing, Xander?
So silly.
Yeah.
Bugs are silly because they don't know why ink.
Oh, wow.
They can't get through ink.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When they have paper and you draw ink on the paper, they can't get out of the ink.
Oh, yeah. I know. That's crazy, right?
They're very silly.
Yeah, they're very silly. I got you. Okay. Sorry, we have company over.
I can hear him in the background.
Sorry about that. Oh man. Okay. I want to talk about challenge, right? Because Steven has mentioned that Ash's creation is going to be a little bit more challenging than the average MMORPG.
You're not going to like my take on this.
Okay, I want to hear it then. I'm so glad we did this for the after show. What is your take on difficulty in Ash's creation?
It's not going to be hard at all. I really don't think so. And okay, all right, hear me out. How do I want to start this? It does come down to balance, because if the fights aren't tuned right, like what, or are we just talking PvE challenge? Okay, PvE challenge. I think it obviously will have some strategy involved, and it will be hard for some groups, but ultimately I do not think we're looking at like Ultima style raids from Final Fantasy, Mythic raiding from WoW. Like, I do not think we will see those styles of fights. Look at, like, we don't obviously a balance pass hasn't happened yet, but look at Tumok. He had 3 mechanics. It was not a hard fight. I think with a little bit of coordination, anybody's going to be able to kill Tumok. Now, I know it's a level 25 boss, and I would expect that difficulty to rise as levels increase. And there's a couple of reasons. Intrepid doesn't want to shoot themselves in their own foot. Think about, I mean, Vlhadus, you're a WoW player, you're a raider. Think about progression nights.
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you wipe on one boss sometimes during the most difficult progression? For days.
Yeah.
Multiple raids, you can wipe on 1 or 2 bosses.
Yeah.
Death penalties exist. You are not going to get progression nights in Ashes of Creation. 1, because gear degradation, like we just talked about. Your gear gets broke every time you die. And you don't just get to go to a vendor and repair your gear. You have to find someone to repair your gear, right, and you have to gather the materials. Like, I need iron bars to repair my iron sword. So how many times can we wipe on a boss before our gear's completely broken and it costs us an arm and a leg to fix it?
Yeah.
And what's the other death penalty that's going to completely screw you is stat dampening. Every time you die, you get weaker. Therefore, every time you wipe on a boss, your ability to kill that boss becomes lessened because you're gradually getting weaker.
Right.
And then there's the experience debt. How many times can you wipe on a boss before the experience debt just becomes too much for you to want to grind it off?
Unless you're max level.
Well, we don't know how that's going to work yet. I'm wondering if
True.
That's just like that particular. There you go. That's a fucking question. Ask it. What happens to experience debt at max level? Does it just go away? Is it gone? Or is it going to somehow hamper you in some other way, shape, or form? We don't know. That's a good question to ask.
I'm gonna put it down.
That's a great question, because everybody is worried about experience debt. As Phantom can attest, in EverQuest, you lost levels. Like, you literally lost experience. You just didn't go into debt. Like, I'll never forget it. Ding, level 60. Hell yeah. Dong, level 59 again. Great. I did that so many times. That was just the way you lived back then. But then there's also PvP. You cannot get solid raid progression when there's the constant threat of being ganked. Therefore, if fights are incredibly difficult, where you cannot get genuine raid progress, people won't want to play your game.
Right.
So fights cannot be that difficult because it's an open world setting with death penalties. You don't want to punish the player. Like, there's one thing to not have the skill. Like, hey, I know the strat, we're just not good enough to do it.
Right.
Versus we don't know the strat at all. There's no guide online because we're the first people that ever got here. Like, that's not fun.
Right.
You want to talk about fun, like you just mentioned? That is not fun.
Right.
We're the first group to ever encounter this boss. We have no idea what he does. We're gonna wipe and we're gonna pay dearly. Like, that's not risk and reward. That's just not fun. Hey, I'm gonna risk my gear, my experience, and my stats for a chance at killing this boss and getting a reward. But hey, I have to also learn how to do the fight. That's not risk versus reward. That's just really not fun.
Right.
I think there will be some difficulty involved, but I do not think it's going to be cutting edge rating. I don't.
Well, I don't think that's a bad take at all. Like, and I actually don't disagree with you. I think difficulty is a very multifaceted word in this particular sentence, right? Like, because there could be difficulty in earning items and earning recipes and earning materials, right? That in itself could be difficult because now you're in an open world dungeon where other people are also killing this boss simultaneously. This isn't an instance dungeon. So the difficulty comes into, are we the first people here? Can we kill the boss? Is the boss already dead? What is the percentage rate of these drops that we need from X boss? How long do we need to be here in order to have this boss spawn and then we kill it and not be bombarded with other people? That's difficulty, right? It's not the difficulty in the sense of how hard and how many mechanics this boss is going to do.
I think when they, that's exactly what they're talking about when they talk about difficulty, and it's going to be all the friction involved.
Right.
It's not going to be the actual tuned mechanics of this boss or this mob. It's going to be all the shit that's going to get in your way to prevent you from getting it down.
Yeah. Speak for yourself. My blood will be boiling with excitement on being the first to figure it out. I mean,
you're absolutely right. But what happens 3 pulls in when you have minus 30% stats and you literally can't do it anymore? Your blood boiling turns to nothing because you're like, what the hell do I do now? Right?
You got to be in a group that has the same passion in trying to figure it out as you do. Because if you aren't, you're going to get very frustrated very quickly because there's other people that have different agendas than you do. And this is why I say get in a guild where you have the same mindset as your guildies, because especially in Ashes, that friction and that, being of one accord can start breaking down very quickly whenever everybody's doing their own thing and everybody is wanting to do their own thing. It's not going to work in Ashes. I really don't think it is. So
and Sir Onsington, that's another good point. Like if it's your raid night, if it's your progression night and someone just killed that boss might not be up. That's content and resource denial. That's exactly what that is.
And that in itself can be difficult, but there's also people that say it's this artificial level of difficulty that feels disgusting. Like people say the difficulty should come from me killing the boss, not because the boss isn't available, Right. But again, I think it's gonna be one of those things we're gonna have to go and test. We're gonna have to feel it out. And maybe there's certain ways that certain bosses are more summoned by groups, right? So it's not this boss is just idling there waiting to be killed. Maybe certain bosses are going to be summoned by groups by completing certain quests, having certain items that they need to have, those kinds of things, right? So it's not like the boss spawns, based off of,
I absolutely think that there should be, and this is where data mining comes in, and they're going to ruin it for us, unfortunately. But I think like locking bosses behind secret methods, like imagine being like the first group to figure out how to spawn a particular boss.
Right.
But you have to be so careful. Like you couldn't stream it. Like we want to farm this guy. Like, it'd be sketchy.
It's sort of like a soft attunement in a sense, right? Because in Alpha 1, the soft attunement for killing the fire dragon was having the ring. If you didn't have the ring, as soon as you entered his vicinity, you were dead. You were one shot.
I know.
So right. And so, but I like that approach, right? I like that idea of, hey, I did complete the thing I needed to do to earn the kill on this boss. You guys didn't. Anytime you approach the boss, you're gonna die. I live, right? Like I think that's a really good approach, especially in an open world design, because now the people that are there alongside you earn the right to be along their side you. They're not just spawn camping and waiting for someone to activate the boss so they can try to kill it before you do.
Did you watch Shangri-La Frontier?
I heard of Shangri-La Frontier. I know it's an anime. I have not seen it.
It's pretty good, and it's about a game, and it's an MMO game, and it's pretty good. But there's this one part in there where they need to kill a boss, the Tomb Guard, and like one guild knows how to spawn this guy,
Right.
and that's it. Like it's a spawnable, like you
Like
have
a
to go
spawnable
through this
boss.
special thing. Yeah, and it's like their guild was like farming him for experience and resources. Um, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's pretty cool because they figured it out. No one else did. No one else had access to it. I'd love to see something like that in Ashes.
Right. I mean, there was a boss in Aeon where you needed to have a mark, and any of the people that had a mark were able to activate the boss. If you didn't have a mark, you had a debuff that literally just you were feared basically the entire time up until yeah. So it's like if you were just trying to spawn camp, like you were basically just gonna be feared, like, and you're probably just gonna die. And again, like I like that kind of approach, especially in an open world game.
Yeah.
And I think there needs to be more things that are sort of like that, like sort of like soft attunements. Now, I don't mind if some world bosses have a pretty long attunement process of earning certain like items that every person that wants to try to attempt this boss has to get. And again, that is going to be a form of difficulty, right? In order for everybody in our party to get it, we need to perform these attunements. And guess what? Let's just be honest. Classic WoW has a better retention because of these kinds of things. Like, I'm just being honest. Like, guys, like people say they hate attunements, but the general audience, like in this kind of current day and age of theme park MMOs, doesn't like attunements. But the people who stick to these games, they will go through those attunements. They will.
They will, and they'll stick around. Their steps every time.
And again, there's not a lot of people that stick around to MMOs anymore, and it's because there's nothing about them. Everything is so convenient and easy. You know what I'm saying? And again, like, difficulty is a very finicky word. And I think difficulty, I do agree with you, Roar. I don't really think there's going to be hard encounters in Ashes. I think there's going to be, I would say, probably similar to a little bit less than heroic level. If we're talking WoW terms, I can see that. Yeah, like heroic, less than difficulty.
What's really interesting in the thing we've heard over and over, but have never ever seen, is like how the bosses get more difficult based on your performance.
Right.
That's going to be interesting.
Right.
But as far as like the general encounter, I don't think it's definitely not going to be like the cutting edge difficulty that you're got to be super afraid of.
Yeah. And ultimately, like, I think it's gonna be one of those things that people, I don't know, like people always have their opinions about how certain things should be done. But I feel like we need to have retention in Ashes of Creation. And the reason how you create that retention is by having certain objectives that aren't as convenient as the way they typically are in MMOs. I think the more typical a game is convenienced, you're going to have these complete downslopes of population just going down because they completed all the content because it was easy to do, it was convenient to do, and now they're bored, and now they have to wait 6 months until the next patch to do anything meaningful in that game.
And I think we're still going to see that a little bit. There's definitely going to be players. Yeah, there's definitely going to be players that don't want to participate in like node progression and grind experience for a node. There's going to be people that don't want to level their crafting skills. They just want to come in and kill stuff.
Right.
And you know, if this particular set of dungeons that we're looking at right now, because of the nodes that are available to us, if those dungeons have been up for a while and people are kind of over them, but those nodes are very well defended and can't be destroyed so easily, they're gonna get bored with the content that is currently available to them, and they're gonna go do something else. Like, it's going to happen. So it's really that, and that's where it all comes down to, the whole node system working as intended. And it's really going to come down to testing, because like the nodes create the content. They're going to create all that new stuff for us if they can be destroyed. Right? It really comes down to the defenders.
Right.
If the whole general, like, I don't know if I can ever see this happening in this world, but like, if the whole server can come together and decide that like they don't want this node to be alive anymore, everybody goes and pulls all their stuff out of storage and moves it somewhere else, and then they siege that node. Like, that's a huge thing, and I really don't see that happening. But I think if the node system is extremely dependent on the growth and destruction of nodes to make healthy new content for the world, it's really going to come down to active attackers and defenders. Like people, I don't know, man. People don't like to lose. If they have a really good node and it's an economy node and they have a good auction house, like the stores are full of people's stuff. They don't want to lose their house. They don't want to lose all that stuff. They're going to defend, and they're probably going to be pretty good at it. Like think about New World, man. Some guilds held on to particular nodes in New World for months that could not be defeated. And in Ashes, that just means no new content. And if you're sick of the dungeon or the raid boss or the resources that particular Metropolis node holds, and they're successfully defending it every time, that's going to suck. So you can attack vassals and try to break those down and start those over and that kind of thing. But it has that waterfall effect. So if you can't defeat the Metropolis, you can defeat the vassal node next to it, and that'll destroy everything beyond that, or the vassal node beyond that. Right? So you don't always have to attack the Metropolis, but the defenders are going to defend their territory all the same. So I don't know. I'm really interested to see how that all works out. Like content in the game is completely dependent on the growth and destruction of nodes, but players are directly involved in the defending and attacking of that. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, again, I just think they need to cook. I'm still thinking September for Alpha 2. I'm hoping we see Rogue in May. I'm crossing my fingers, man. I really want to see Rogue, at least sometime before Alpha 2. I mean, and I think they will.
I think we will.
I honestly feel like May would be a really great month to show Rogue, and then I think a Castle Siege in like June, like to create some hype.
Okay, you want to hear my take?
Yeah, hell yeah.
So we know for a fact, due to Steven, that we're going to get the character creator. PI is going to get the character creator a couple of months before Alpha 2 for testing and trying out and all that.
Right.
So I think since we're getting close, either May or June, I think we're going to get an improved character creator stream. And then they're going to be like, guess what comes with it? Everybody now has a character creator. We're going to show it off and then give it to you.
Dude, I'm not even a character creator person. Like I would rather have a pre-made character that someone can make in like, and I can just do a little bit of detailed stuff in like 5 minutes and then get right into the game. Like I'm not that person that wants to be in the character creator for 6 hours. I would do it just to see like how crazy.
You're going to log on. You're going to be on Twitch. Designing your character. Come on.
Well, of course I am. Like, why would I not?
I'm not a character creator guy, but
no, I'm not. Like, honestly, like when I go into an MMO, like when I went into like, what was it? The NDA test that I can't say that I was in. I just whatever pre-made, I just went in. Like, I didn't care. Like, I usually don't care. It's not
all I do anymore. In every single game that I make a character is a bald guy with a mustache. That's all I ever do.
Surprise.
That's all I ever do anymore. Like it's so simple. I need good mustache options and customization. That's it.
Yes. And I will say New World actually did have some pretty good mustache customizations for their
handlebars, bro.
Yep. I remember that. I remember that.
My character's bald with a handlebar.
Oh my god.
I actually really like World of Warcraft's humans because they've updated all the options.
Oh yeah.
The humans in World of Warcraft actually have some pretty good mustache options. So that's pretty good.
I mean, honestly, like from the Ashes character creator that we got, what was it, 2 years ago? The updated one. I mean, it's crazy. Like, and I can't even imagine at what level that character creator is at now. Like I like if they're trying to hit,
especially with all the new races that we've kind of seen.
Oh yeah. Like, dude, I am kind of hyped for it, man, because I really want to play Renkai. The only thing I want, and Steven, please, for the love of God, I need tusks. I don't need these little dainty things. I want like garrosh level tusks. I want to be this gristled old Renkai. And I just don't like these little dainty tusks. Like, and again, maybe it's my Warcraft fanboy wanting to come out a little bit, but I really hope there's like
Warcraft has the best orcs.
And I think so, in my opinion.
Like that's what made us all fall in love with orcs. Is WoW 100%. Orcs, they're awesome. They are mean. They are mean, and they look good.
They do.
So that's gonna be like the basis. Like that's the baseline orc that we require. And that was the only thing I had to say about this one, and that's why I wasn't upset about it. It looked honestly looked too goblinish for me.
The face?
But I'm also not upset about it because I know what they're going for with the character creator, and you could probably make that thing look as nasty and as mean as you want it to.
Oh,
I really do believe that. So
I mean, for how the concept art of the Tolnar looked, the Tolnar concept art looks mean as like you don't want to get jumped by those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that's what I mean. Like
they did very well.
Yeah. And so I hope the Renkai could have that kind of aggression to it as well. And I know they're like, if you look at the Renkai, they're more tranquil. Like it's not Warcraft orcs. Like they're not. They're about peace, about structure, about harmony. But there's also another side to them too, especially if they're going to derive off of dragons, which that was the last time we heard Steven talk about. Oh, I see there's dragon scales on our Renkai. I wonder what that means. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like dragons aren't nice people. You know what I mean? They're not nice. So it would be really cool to see at least more dragon influence with like some really mean like crystal tusks. Like I really, really want that.
I'm down for that. Absolutely. It was really cool to see the shimmery, scaly thing. It took me a second to realize until he said it.
Right.
So
yeah, no, 100%.
I didn't understand what I was looking at a little bit.
Is there anything else you want to talk about before I raid Theory Forge? Honestly, dude, this was a great conversation, man. This was so good. I'm glad it actually felt like a better conversation than we had yesterday with, in your Discord. Because this is, it was really good, dude. I liked it a lot.
Well, like yesterday, I was trying to have that conversation while getting murdered
in League of Legends.
So it was difficult. It was difficult for me to focus. So
yeah, no, this was awesome, dude. I think we had a really good turnout for it, and I think they were very much loving it as well. Guys, thank you all so much for watching. I'm gonna go ahead and raid Theory Forge. And again, you guys know where you can find Roar. If you want to find him on YouTube, find him on Twitch. It'll be in the description of this video. So guys, thank you all so much, seriously, for the 1,000 subscribers. Like, I'm probably going to make a video about that. I think that's a pretty big deal. Just kind of thanking you guys properly in that.
That is the milestone.
It is.
Because the next milestone, 10, you know what it is, right?
10,000.
No. 100K.
Oh, okay. You're talking about YouTube.
Like you can have your personal milestone,
personal
all day long,
milestone, yeah.
But the next milestone for like YouTube success is 100K. So buckle down,
dude. Do you know how many people like go to the 1K mark in YouTube? Like for content, it's actually I was staggered.
Very low percentage.
It's a low percentage. I was actually shocked for how many people don't even reach the 1K. There's people that literally have accounts for over 10 years that hadn't reached 1,000 subscribers. Like, isn't that nuts? Like, if you think about it, like, I guess it is what it is.
Richie needs to try harder.
Richie, dude.
Guy's been a YouTuber for his entire adult life. He's barely almost pushing 9K. Get out of
here. Poor Richie, dude. Oh my God.
We love Richie.
I know. But we do.
Thanks for having me, man. It was a great conversation. Thank you, everybody in chat, for listening to my mad rambles. Appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you all so much. We're going to be rating in 3, 2, or God, no, I am way off. We'll be rating Theory Forge soon. Apparently, okay, like it's okay. We're going now. You have a great weekend, guys. Thank you all so much. All right, here we go.